Sam Weston, coming back from ShipSummit 2026, and I now have Jason Fraser here with me. He's also been one of the coaches and speakers for the event. Jason, thank you so much for taking some time.
Of course, my pleasure.
So you had an amazing talk this morning where you told us all about user stories and how important that is, especially now in the age of AI. So I want to continue that conversation and kind of roll back like 6 months where we really started hearing more about prompt engineering and trying to figure out, is this going to be a real job of just prompt engineering?
Yeah.
So we are seeing that prompting might be an issue. Is it as big of an issue as we think it is?
I'm not sure. So my experience so far, first off, today really has been the first time that I've spent any amount of time actually trying to create an application using AI myself. So I am not an engineer by trade. I'm a product management person. And actually right now I'm a strategy consultant more than anything. And so this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse. That said, I've spent the last 15 years in software.
Yes.
So I've been around teams that build software for a very long time. And as I've been working through some of this stuff today, sometimes I've been using that user story format that we talked about this morning and being very precise in my language of what I want the machine to deliver for me. And sometimes I'm just saying, hey, but do this. No, like change this thing, and not like trying to structure it as a story. And the results that I've been getting so far are a little mixed, honestly. Like, so the user story stuff worked. It did a bunch of stuff that, like it hard coded a lot of things and stuff like that. And so I've been learning through the experience of trying to build something, the ways in which I need to be more precise and tell it to like actually use live data for a thing, and here's where you get that live data from and stuff like that. So the precision, I think, does matter, but the degree to which precision matters, I think, varies depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Like, I think you can get a lot done with just a few tokens, like writing a really simple prompt and just saying, hey, like, I want to do this, do that. And if it comes back and it's successful, then you've got success, right? But you do have to double check it because there, as I've seen today in the work that I've been doing, it sometimes does things that are just not at all right. And, so you have to make sure that it's not doing things that are totally wrong.
Absolutely. And the skills that you were teaching this morning with those user stories, they are transferable, right? To whether you're talking to a human or you're talking to an AI. And I think that it's really important, and that as we're making software development less democratized, everybody has access to software development now that we're here at ShipSummit. Everybody's vibe coding today, and it's super fun. I think understanding those principles, whether you're using them or not. So as you're saying that you sometimes little changes don't take an entire user story, but understanding those principles is important now for more than just the designer, more than just the product manager, so that as we're all getting our hands into this code, we are using the same systems, processes, design thinking. What do you have on that idea?
Well, I think that even if you're not feeding the machine a given when then kind of statement or a proper user story with proper acceptance criteria, it's still useful to structure your own thought, right? So if you don't know what you want, and you've got time to experiment, then experimentation is cool. Like, throw stuff at the wall, it's fairly cheap. But if you have a strong feeling about what you want, structuring that in a logical format. So this, the Gherkin format for acceptance criteria, which is that given, when, then, and, like, there are just a few logical operators in that construction. The given gives you the context, the when, sets up an action, then sets up the result of that action, and compounds things in there, right? And if you think of those as the only operators that you have, within a structure, it forces you to think about what you really want to happen what you want to happen in a very clear way. And I think if you can think that out, or if you're working directly with a user and you're like, I see my user in this context, and when that user does this thing, then this other thing happens, or they expect this other thing to happen. Like you might notice, even as I'm talking about this, I'm using those same logical operators as I'm talking, and not intentionally. That's the way we see things unfold, when we're engaging with the user. And I think what's most important is that we are delivering tools that are valuable to a human. And part of what makes them valuable is their usability. So something can be useful without being usable. And likewise, something can be usable without being truly useful. We want both. And so in order to get there, structuring our thoughts in a way that sort of follows the path of the action that a human is going to take is really helpful. And I do think that it helps the machine understand what we're trying to do as well, and probably delivers better results.
Definitely. And you said something that I want to dig down deeper on, that if you don't know what you want, you can start throwing things at the wall. It's not that expensive. It's all good. I think that one of the things that we have to be really careful with as we are starting to get into AI, though, is that it mirrors what you want. It wants to please you.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to say, you're absolutely right. Finger guns like we saw in the talks yesterday.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're talking to a developer, you're not going to get that. They're not going to go, oh yeah, whatever you want.
Yeah.
They're going to push back, and they're going to figure out the guardrails, figure out the plan before they actually start implementing. So there's somewhat of a danger in just trying a little bit of everything with the AI, knowing that it's going to try to give you everything that you want. Whereas with a developer, with somebody that's actually been hands-on in the code before, they are going to make sure that you have a plan, that you know what you want, so that you are getting those outcomes.
Yeah. What I've seen in some of the work that I've done today is that you can actually ask the machine to check your assumptions and to give you thoughts on what you're doing. And so in that way, you can engage with it more like a human developer. So I went through this morning the INVEST format of stories. It was independent, negotiable, valuable, estimatable, small, and testable.
Yes.
Right. Some of those things still matter. Some of them matter differently. Some of them don't matter at all, I think. But the estimatable part, that's the part where we used to have conversations with our engineers about okay, what's it really going to take to do this way? And the engineer gets to say, I don't think you want to do this way because it's going to be really costly. Here's how it's going to affect your code base, all of that stuff. And so we can discuss different implementations. I think there was a poet who used the phrase, raise high the roof beams, carpenters, right? And it's this, I think it might have been John Donne. And it's the idea that the people who are doing the building actually have a lot of knowledge to contribute around how a thing should be built, right? And maybe you should reference that. And so being able to recognize that it's okay to just ask your AI agent partner, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Is that stupid? Or are there things that I'm overlooking? There are also a couple of folks here at the conference who have written various tests that you can apply to AI. So John Cutler, I don't know if you've spoken with him yet. Okay, so John Cutler wrote in a README file, he wrote a test that you can pull down from his GitLab repo and drop it into, we're using Claude today. There are other tools available. We're using Claude today. Drop that README into Claude and say, evaluate my app according to the criteria in this README. And it gives you feedback on the problem that you're solving, the personas involved in that problem, whether or not the solution that you're working on so far is actually working for the personas that are entailed in it. And I thought that was really interesting that you can you can ask for analysis, you can ask for help, and the help is there. Do I trust that help as being human? Not really. And I talked about this in my talk a little bit, that generated personas are not the same as live human personas, because a generated persona will never have the unique body of experience that an actual individual human has. And so when you're trying to do things like user testing, using a generated persona is great for testing your testing and seeing where people might, have challenges with the test format that you're using. But you should actually test for real with humans, because they're going to give you insights that an average or an averaged human can never give you.
Yeah, so we're seeing that as of mid 2025, about 25% of organizations wanted to ship code on an hourly basis, but only 8% of those actually could. And we're at a point now where most everybody can, depending on obviously how they're set up, but the ability's there. And you're saying we maybe shouldn't, or if we're going to, we need to make sure that all of that testing is in place, that we're not skipping that. Just because we can push the big green button doesn't mean that we should.
Yeah.
That we should keep those humans in the loop for testing.
I mean, the situations that I have seen where people can't push whenever they want to push have almost always been policy problems, not infrastructure problems or engineering problems, right? So if you can fix your organization, that's the first step in being able to push as often as you want to. And I've had a lot of experience working with very large enterprises, and it's always been policy issues. Infrastructure second, engineering third.
Yeah.
Should we push all the time? Everyone should use continuous deployment. Yes. Should you push whatever you want? Maybe not.
Right.
But maybe. And this is, Kent Beck's talk yesterday, he relied a lot on 3 words. We don't know.
Sure.
Right. And I think that those 3 words are accurate. Like, when architecture doesn't matter anymore because it's not necessary for humans to understand how the code works behind the scenes. Like, architecture is a construct that is used for, in my naive product manager mind, not an engineer, architecture is used for 2 things. It's one, first and foremost, so that humans understand how things move through a system, so that when things go wrong, they can fix those things and stuff like that. And 2, performance. Architecture actually affects your performance.
Yes.
But when you can regenerate an entire application in a matter of hours, does architecture matter at all? And I don't know that it does. And because now if something is wrong, you can just say, hey, there's this thing that's wrong there. You go, AI, you go figure it out. Like, I don't need to parse the system as a human to track down the problem. I can tell the machine to do that. So maybe it's okay to push anything we want, as long as we're actually paying attention to the outcomes that it's achieving. And for me, having an application in prod was never the goal. Solving a user's problem is the goal.
Right.
And if you have an application, but it's not in prod, that doesn't solve anybody's goal. Like Brian Croker says, prod or it didn't happen, right? Like PIX or it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not in prod, it's not doing anything for anyone. But I actually don't care about software at all. I care about solving humans' problems. And if you're pushing a bunch of junk out into the world that isn't actually doing anything for anyone, I mean, I'm offended, because you're burning a shit ton of carbon to do useless things. And honestly, I would rather have my granddaughter live in a world where she's not going to die from a famine than have you push a bunch of junk that nobody needs.
Right. So the KPI for developers needs to move away from getting code out the door to actually making an impact and solving those problems.
It was never the developer's job to write code. I mean that, and
It
I
was
will,
always their job to create impact, to create
yeah,
outcomes, but
to
the
create
KPI that
outcomes,
those businesses put in place
and
is
that is the
typically
wrong
pretty bad.
KPI, and it has always been the wrong KPI. And I've seen organizations that actually evaluate engineers by the number of commits they make, or the lines of code they've written, or like, wow, this application is so incredible, it's like X many 100,000 lines of code. I'm like, it doesn't work. Like, why do you think it's so great? Like, I think that uh, given that our entire business culture is based on manufacturing culture, right? And manufacturing is very predictable, right? And the number of widgets that you kick out in a day actually matters. That is the KPI. Like, if I'm Henry Ford and I can knock out 200 Model Ts from one assembly line, in 1 week, like, maybe that's great. I actually don't know how many you're supposed to do in a week, but like, it's certainly better than only 50, right? But when I'm an engineer, and my organization is holding me accountable to metrics that are more appropriate for a factory than they are for knowledge work, that's just fundamentally flawed.
I love that. I think that hopefully with the induction of vibe coding and AI assisted development, that we're going to have that opportunity to move away from how many lines of code did you push out to what impact are you actually making.
I hope so. And it feels like, when you're creating applications using AI, like, you're not thinking about the code at all, right? At least that's been my experience today. Like, I don't have to read code, I don't have to write code. I just have to tell the machine what I want the outcome to be, and then I have to check and make sure that it's actually doing it right. And that means more outcomes. But it does mean we still have to have some discretion, I guess, about what outcomes we actually want. And there are some things that just don't do enough to matter. There are some things that are actively harmful and that no one should do ever, but people do. And so I think we have to use our conscience when we're thinking about putting this stuff up out in the world, and recognize again that everything has a cost associated with it. And just because we can okay, there are hidden costs, right? And I mentioned the carbon cost earlier.
Right.
And like, I have a granddaughter, and I think about this thing that I'm doing right now. There are costs that I will never bear for this thing, but she will. Is this thing worth it? Like, is it worth it for me to invest this carbon, that my granddaughter is going to have to deal with? And that has affected my decision making on a lot of things. And I think that as an enterprise, as a what's the word I'm looking for?
As humanity.
As humanity, as a whole, we really need to be thinking about, like, yeah, I could do this thing, but is it actually worth it? I knew a guy who, we were talking about his car. He's got this big SUV and he loves his big SUV. And I'm like, yeah, it eats a lot of gas though, and you kind of just drive around the city, like, you're not using it for anything. And he's like, I can afford the gas, it's cool. And I was like, no, you can afford the gas. My granddaughter can't afford you using this gas for nothing, right? So I think we have to pay attention to those externalized costs and really make sure that we're doing things where the exchange is worth it.
Well, and beyond the environmental cost, there's the societal cost. Are we building the things that are actually going to better society, or are we building for the sake of building?
Well, or for the sake of evil. And the minute new technology emerges, it is instantly adopted. The earliest adopters of new technology are people with bad intentions. And like, the second it is possible to clone a child's voice and use it to extort money from a worried parent, people did it. They were like, yeah, we can do that. Let's do that. What a great idea. Like, no, that's not a great idea. Yeah. Anyway, I could rant about ethics for a long time. It's kind of what I care about. I care about this stuff more than I care about software.
Well, then let's end on that note. And what final thoughts do you want to leave with those who we're at ShipSummit? Everybody's getting their hands into this code. We're making it available to everybody, and there is a lot of ethics behind this. So, what are those final words that you want to leave the audience with as they start moving their organizations into this same area?
Do the right thing. Just be good. I mean, I believe, and this is real, I actually believe that AI, while opening up amazing possibilities for things that we could do, like we could cure cancer with this. There are tons of genetic diseases that we could cure. There's all kinds of really good things. We could solve a lot of our carbon problems if we used AI in the right ways to evaluate solutions and things like that, and then actually have the political will to engage with those solutions. But at the same time that it's all of that, it is also the most dangerous tool that humanity has acquired since the atom bomb. Like, it could be our undoing, like 100%. And so just do the right thing. Don't be bad.
I think that's a great note to end on. Do the right thing. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you.
Sam Weston coming to you live from ShipSummit 2026. Hi.